Hello everybody and welcome to another Scots Way podcast, and today I'm in the legendary Pianodrome in Edinburgh and I'm talking to directors Tim Vincent-Smith and Matthew Wright. Hello both.
Hi. Hello.
We're going to be talking about your Summer Resonancy, which is coming up in August at the festival, but first, can you give us some background into Pianodrome, and for those who don't know, just what the Pianodrome is?
The Pianodrome is a 100-seater amphitheatre made entirely out of upcycled pianos, or 90 seats. It depends whether you count the extra chairs. And it is in the Old Royal High on Calton Hill for a Summer Resonancy until the middle of September. It's
an amazing space, as I say. I had heard about Pianodrome before, but kind of coming into it, nothing kind of gets you ready for it. And you're saying it's in this fantastic building that we're in. Was that a recent movement? Does that happen recently?
Yeah, so we've run 2 fringe runs before with the first Pianodrome that we built. This is actually the second, and we, about 2 years ago, stumbled upon a really exciting opportunity to work with St Mary's Music School, who have had a big campaign at the time to take on the whole school as their new space. This whole Royal High School is their new space, and redevelop it as the new National Centre for Music. Since we first met them, they've actually secured this with the council, and we're here in the interim just before they start developing the space, to activate the site and energise the site. So it's a perfect home for us for this Summer Resonancy. It's really exciting. In the room, we've actually designed the Pianodrome specifically for the room that we're in.
So what are the kind of practicalities of building something like this?
Well, you need pianos, you need people, and then you put those two things together and, 3 months later you've got a Pianodrome.
I'm sure it's not as simple as that.
It's not as simple as that, but really, in some senses, it is that simple. You need, yes, I mean, we're very lucky to rent a warehouse in Granton off the council, where we accept pianos mostly from Edinburgh Piano Moves. So they move pianos, they move sometimes 10 pianos a day up and down the stairs in the stairwells around Edinburgh, and they work all over the UK, in fact. And they're very often asked, to just take the piano away. Don't move it somewhere, just move it to the dump, please. And in fact, they pay quite a lot of money to be able to put pianos into landfill. And so that was really one of the when I learned that was the case, being a musician and also being an artist who works with found materials to make furniture. Just find an endless supply of pianos that are going to the dump was a pretty strong motivator to do a big piece with pianos.
And from that kind of initial idea, was it always going to be a kind of performance space like this, or did that kind of follow on?
Really, the initial idea came when I had sort of 10 or 15 pianos, and I put them in a circle, and I took my shoes off and ran around the keyboards in my socks. Blong, 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 clang! And then I sort of sat on the top of one of the pianos, and I looked into the space, and I thought, this is kind of cool, this is like a theatre, well, I play in a band with my co-director Matt in his band. In the band, I know him as Leon. He has 2 names, and the third member of our band is Daniel Dumnov. He keeps the Pianodrome project at arm's length, but we've been playing music together for 10, 15 years, and we play a lot of instrumental, experimental, acoustic music. And that doesn't go down very well in a noisy bar, You can't hear anything, and even if you could, the people probably wouldn't care. So, in one sense, the Pianodrome is a perfect venue for our band Sync.
That's a great idea, to build your own space for your music. And Matt, so when did you get involved? Did Tim kind of go, I've got this idea?
Yeah, literally. So a couple of years before the idea, or maybe just a year before the idea started, to come into my bubble, which basically was Tim pitching this idea to me. I'd started a project called The Forge, which is a workshop in Fountain Bridge. It's like an open access workshop based in shipping containers. So there's a wood workshop in one shipping container and a metal workshop in the other, and lots of space outside to do dirty work and welding and all sorts of stuff. And we've got lots of space. So that was another meanwhile project where before they develop, we can use the site. So we started that, and we were doing all sorts of fun builds and that kind of thing. And Tim pitched this as something we could do at the Forge. And so I was like, that sounds great. Let's do that. Let's see if we can make some prototypes and figure out how to do this thing. And yeah, it really seemed to work for the band Sync, because we'd started finding that in situations where we're performing, it invariably was a better gig if we played in the round rather than on a stage, because we appreciate the acoustic sound. And then if you've got in the round situation, then there's a higher surface area, if you know what I mean, around us for people to really hear the acoustic sound. And we were doing a lot of moving around one another as well to really hear each other's instruments when we were improvising. So it just all seemed to add up and make sense. And I'd been also doing lots of event organising with Edinburgh Science Festival, so I had my mind in that world of how you put together a big production. And so we just started banging away at it. At first it was sort of prototyping on the site, on this brownfield site, and then we got this great opportunity to bring this idea to the Royal Botanic Gardens through a friend of ours who was super supportive and brought us into the botanics, and that was a very exciting time. But we took up, it took our lives away for a good sort of 6 months to a year to like really make it happen. It was a big push, and we got there, and it was a beautiful Fringe run that first year. That was the first Pianodrome, but this one we've built again, a new one which is much improved.
And all new, so to speak, pianos. Nothing came from the previous one.
Nothing came from the previous one. The previous one is still in our warehouse in Grantham, and it's still totally functional. So we now have 2 Pianodromes.
So this is going to be your home for the Summer Resonancy, but it sounds like the kind of mobile nature, they're able to kind of just do it in different spaces. Seems like a really important aspect to it. Yeah.
Actually, we have a tentative plan to, when they start developing the site at the Old Royal High in the middle of September, to move this Pianodrome, and possibly the other one as well, to the Debenhams in Ocean Terminal, which is obviously Debenhams have gone bust. And there's a sort of 3 floors of retail space there, which has been taken over by the We Hub, which is a kind of a group of community-interested groups like the Tinderbox Orchestra and Think Circus and the New Haven Museum and various others. And they are very kindly hosting a trail of 10 sculptures, all made out of pianos, including a 6-metre high tripod of elephant tusks, all made out of piano parts, topped off with piano keys. That's in the main atrium in Ocean Terminal. So the plan is to move this Pianodrome down there to join the sculptures in September and have a winter residency through till April, when the north end of Ocean Terminal is going to be ploughed into the ground to be rebuilt.
It's so interesting because there's all these discussions now about how you use these dead spaces in cities. I see it in Glasgow as well. But I guess Edinburgh is kind of used to using slightly different places due to the festival and to put things on. It's maybe not such a big jump to say we're going to put pianos into an old Debenhams. I just can't imagine that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it seems to us like Edinburgh is a bit, it had a bit of a heyday with the festival, something like 30 years ago, when people were really able to be creative in these spaces because there was all this cool space which was open. But, since then, and actually since I've arrived in the city, like it feels actually like those spaces are already accounted for.
Right.
The big festival promoters use all those spaces, and then during the rest of the year, they're empty. But and actually you can't really use them.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's taken a while to get into the right spaces for us and find out those leads and follow up with those leads. But now it's just, this is, absolutely perfect space to be in.
Well, this building is a case in point.
Yeah.
It's been empty for 60 years. It's the middle of town. It's got a fully functional debating chamber amphitheatre, like 300 seats, right next door to the Pianodrome. And it's, did it get used in the festival? Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, which is incredible to think.
And all you need to do is open the door,
Yeah.
It's
pretty much ready-made. Yeah, it's interesting as well from the point of view that we're coming from, which is about, using the materials around us and upcycling and making sure that you first fully investigate all of the things that you can do with the materials and the people around you before then jumping to virgin materials or jumping to the easy routes that are perhaps less carefully considered in terms of their environmental impact and this kind of thing. And it's the same with buildings. These spaces are here. Why aren't we using them? And why, when it costs so little to open up and have a minimal staff and just invite the community in, why aren't we doing that more often with these open spaces? And there is a move to do that. And the Meanwhile sites that I mentioned before, there is a bit more of a movement behind that. And there's people in the city who've been really opening those opportunities. So, we're right in the middle of that and it feels great. But, we also want to inspire other people to do the same.
Sure.
We need spaces to come together. And the Pianodrome is really a crucible for that. It's a space where we want people to come in and feel welcome and feel they can express themselves and become inspired and meet other people,
Well, with that in mind, can you tell us a bit about the Summer Resonancy? What can people expect?
It's very exciting. So throughout July, we've got, throughout July and early September, it's really for the people of Edinburgh to explore the spaces and to spend time in the Pianodrome. We've got a free lunchtime concert, 1 p.m. every day that we're open. Mm-hmm. And in July, we're open Wednesday to Sunday every day. In August, we'll be open every day, but we'll also have those free lunchtime concerts at 1 p.m. and then back to the Wednesday to Sunday in the beginning of September. And those free sessions, what happens there, we don't know. We're excited to see what people bring, There's 3 pianos that are embedded into the structure which people can play. Mm-hmm. There's a third grand piano. There's the big debating hall, which we yesterday had some friends who have toddlers in, and in the middle of the debating hall there's this kind of cordoned off area where the kids were basically using it as a creche, and it was totally beautiful. We wouldn't have thought of that, but it just happened yesterday.
2 1.5-year-old girls playing football with their dads, falling over each other and giggling. I mean, that was a pretty good show.
It was amazing.
That was like...
It was glorious. And then in the third room, we're on 14th of July, which is probably past the time when you'll be airing this, but we will have the Belfield Brewery Resonancy Lounge, the Resonancy Lounge with Belfield Brewery, who are our partners in this project, who will be opening a bar, and we'll have food available from Cyrenians, who are a great homeless charity. Mm-hmm. And again, that will have a piano in it, and we'll be opening the space as just a great place to be in. And then the terrace bar out the front as well, which was used by Hidden Door Festival to great effect. It's a south-facing terrace, and it looks over the crags in the old town. It's just...
And the sun comes across, it's lovely to sit out there on a grassy bank with a gluten-free beer.
I can't imagine many better spots in Edinburgh, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
But, just looking out over it this morning, it's amazing. So what you're doing, it seems to me, is in no small part about collaboration and diversity, even just what you've mentioned there, playing football and with kids and inviting basically everyone in. What excites you about that?
I think it's for me, what excites me is the fact that, like, you never know what you're going to get, and also the idea that I don't know, all of us are trying. We have ideas about what the Pianodrome might be or could be or will be, but it's always different from what we have in our minds before we put the show on. So I think it's the discovery which excites me, the sort of the manifestation, the growth of a project like this, which when you see something, you plant a seed and it grows, and you never really know what's going to happen. I think that's, for me, what is so exciting about it.
Yeah, I think it seems to be about breaking down barriers about maybe people even just coming to hear live music.
Yeah, breaking down all kinds of barriers. I mean, the thing that really excites me is you get all kinds of people coming through, and they wouldn't necessarily meet each other in other circumstances, and then they get talking, and it's just a sort of funny idea, like, really, to make an amphitheatre out of pianos, and that makes a lot of people curious, and that's really only the starting point. Once you've got people in with that sort of, that kind of silly idea, basically, then what happens after that? That's when it starts to get really interesting. I mean, we're sick of pianos, truth be told. There's too many of them. That's not true. I play the piano every day and I love it. But it's not ultimately about the pianos, it's about the people. It's about who comes in and then who they meet and then what happens, And that's not even about just music. We've got Alan McGowan is putting up his paintings in the one room over there. We've got Bridget, his partner, is going to do a walk around the building where she finds all the little plants that are growing, and she's hoping to work with a very famous Scottish poet whose name I'm not going to mention just now because it's not confirmed, to do poetry as part of that as well. So it's breaking down the barriers between people and between cultural genres, and between who's the audience and who's the performer, and breaking down the barriers of the building, who gets to come in here. I mean, we want this place to be as accessible as Calton Hill. We're going to put a sign up there for anybody who's going to Calton Hill. You can come in here. I mean, the site is open free of charge throughout the entire residency.
Matt, I read something you'd said about the importance of reconnecting, which I think is exactly what you're saying, Tim. And it's so true. I feel like maybe we've underestimated the importance of even just doing something like this in a room like this, and doing it face to face and talking to you, which is such a different thing from doing it screen to screen, Zoom or whatever. And that importance of reconnecting socially and culturally. Do you want to expand on what you meant by reconnecting?
Yeah, I guess I was referring to the last 3 years, the crazy times we've had with the pandemic, which has sort of enabled a lot of people to then see what technology can be good for, but I think there's this danger that we just get stuck in a digital world, and we were already looking at that before the pandemic. The pandemic's just pulled us in a bit more, and we have to really consciously find ways to remind ourselves that we are physical human beings in a material world which has so much to give on its own. And yes, there's lots that's really attractive about the digital space, but if we're not careful and we don't recognise what we get from face-to-face companionship, or seeing live music, live theatre, live events, or being in strange and wonderful spaces, then those definitely will disappear. The spaces which the spaces which rely on people actually going in there and supporting them won't be supported, and it's critical that people stand up and actually attend things, actually get their tickets, pull themselves away from the TV and the screens, and just get involved, because life is short.
Well, I think that's right. I think for some people there's this mindset of, I've survived on my own, and this is all right, you cocoon. But then I've started to back out to gigs again, and you think, oh, this is what I've missed. This is, even just the gig itself, but talking afterwards, talking beforehand, going somewhere else, all those kind of things. You think, yeah, this is really important.
Definitely.
So you must be looking forward to audiences coming back with that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's already started.
Yeah.
So
how's it been?
It's been amazing. We played a gig actually so the Hidden Door very kindly. They had a separate plan to be using this building, which predates our plan to be here by a long time. But they very kindly agreed to host our debut of the Pianodrome, and they very kindly booked our band to play in the Pianodrome during that. And it was a packed house, and it was just amazing. It was totally electric.
Yeah, and it's great for us. Our show's called Sync, Return to the Source. We'll be playing 5 shows during the Fringe. And really, it is the source. It's the source not only, we're returning to a trio rather than a 5-piece formation, with Tim on violin, myself on saxophone, and Daniel Dumnoff on accordion. But then we also have expanded over the years into other instrumentation, so we'll incorporate pianos, and I make these tongue drums at the forge, made out of old gas canisters, and Tim does all these cool vocal effects and sings and stuff. And we were also really excited because we did our first performance at that show at the Hidden Door on a grand piano, which we took the lid off, and the 3 of us just went inside the piano and made all these cool sounds. And that's something we'll be presenting during the Fringe Festival, which is really exciting. So that's, I guess from a performance point of view, that's what I'm most excited about doing. Yeah,
and it's also going back to the source in the sense of going back to improvisation as being like a core part of that of what we present. As the band expanded, it became necessary to be a bit more, close it down a bit more in terms of what could and couldn't happen in a live show, because people needed to know what to expect. But stripping that back a bit, the piece that Matt was talking about, Trio for Unprepared Piano, is a pure improvisation. We start off with the 3 of us and the grand piano and various kind of sticks and piano hammers and screws and stuff, but we don't know what's going to happen, And 2/3 of the show that we did for the Hidden Door was pure improvisation, and that's really exciting for us to go back to that roots of this band for this Fringe show. Yeah.
And I saw a pair of drumsticks over there, and I was wondering what they might have been used for.
So the drumsticks actually were used for the other night. So we had our first, during our residency, we started on the 1st of July. We had our first ticketed show, which was a very dear friend of ours called Alabaster de Plume, who's based down south and is doing sort of basically a world tour this year. And we found one little date which he could make in our 2.5-month residency, and that was last Monday, which meant it was our first ticketed show of the run, and we sold it out, and it was an electric vibe. So that was really, really cool. That's why there's drumsticks about. But also, there are instruments hidden around behind all the pianos, and it's not just a pianodrome in that sense. It's a space for all music, all different types of musicians.
I mean, and you're talking about encouraging improvisation, but it's taken to another level if you're getting inside, and it's experimentation. And does the space kind of encourage experimentation?
I think so. Yeah, I think what we've done with pianos is we've taken pianos that were on the way to the dump and we've turned them inside out and upside down, and we've turned them into something else. We've turned them into furniture. We've turned them into architecture. And so by the same token, we're encouraging people to turn their ideas about things inside out and upside down, and their ideas about people, and find new things in themselves. What happens if I don't think of myself as being our motto? In fact, is no piano is junk, no person is unmusical. You know, so the idea is that people can think, well, maybe I actually, you know, I've always thought I'm not musical because this teacher told me I wasn't when I was 10 or whatever, but actually I'm really digging this, and actually, you know, I'm making these sounds, and like, and it's not just music. Again, it's you know, it's theatre, it's dance, it's sculpture, it's all of these things together. Plant identifying poetry.
Yeah. But you know, it's that idea of breaking down barriers that have sometimes been built up over the years elsewhere by saying, well, you can't do that, or you're not good enough for that, or whatever.
Absolutely.
Say, well, no.
And a classic exemplification of that point is the barrier that you have between the stage and the audience in a sort of front-on perspective. Like, and the stage is above the audience. You know, that's already about barriers. The stars are up there, far away, and the audience are all watching, and they just have one role, which is to consume, and the star gets to do what they've always wanted to do with their lives. You know, this is an inversion, a reverse of that, where we pull the stage inside, right down. Everyone watches from above or beside, so you're on the same level as the performer. And the audience are then part of the performance in a very real sense. And when we open this space for free for the public to come into, it's an invitation, you know. What have you wanted to do all your life?
Yeah. It's already, they become part of the whole performance, just because of the way that it's structured, it seems.
And I think it goes for the musicians also, because I know from experience that being on a stage with a massive PA system and a crowd of people sort of over there is quite an alienating thing. But I also know from experience that being in this amphitheatre and performing here, where you're right there and you can see everybody's reactions and you can interact with people, you know, it's both the musicians and the audience benefit from the breakdown of that barrier, I think. Both the performers and audience benefit from that. And
you've talked about the diversity or the possibilities as well, and I was looking through the programme and there were certain things that jumped out, which I thought, I'd like to hear more about this. And Pianodrome life drawing, been one?
Yeah, so we have a dear friend called Topaz who's been running Reconfigure life drawing events for many years. Often in Summer Hall or in interesting spaces around the city, and she just curates brilliant life drawing events, and so she's going to be doing that in our venue, which is very exciting, during the Fringe on 3 of our Monday nights during the Fringe. Yeah, so that will be great, and there'll be live music and life drawing, and punters are invited to come with their drawing materials or without, and just spend a good couple of hours, even if they don't know what they're doing, you know, just scribbling, or if they're really good artists, they're welcome to, you know, take it a bit more seriously or whatever, you know.
But it's that encouragement again to if you've always wanted to do this, then here's a kind of safe space for you to come and do it.
Absolutely.
Something else I wrote down was Phil Kay and Stacey Clare going to be involved.
Yeah, Phil Kay is amazing.
I see him every time I could in Edinburgh. I'm a big fan of Phil Kay.
He's a very funny comedian, and he's got a book launch. And Stacey is a stripper from London. She's an activist stripper, you know, mobilising for rights for sex workers. And the two of them got off.
With each other?
I don't know whether they got off with each other, but they got on really well.
They got on with each other.
They got on with each other. In, I think it was, the last big Fringe at the Blunderbuss and Spiegeljurt. So this is run by Bob and Lucy, who have become good friends of ours, and they're promoting that show. And yeah, they're both releasing books. It's a sort of book festival Fringe event, so that's going to be really interesting. Yeah.
And I've written down iPiano, and I can't remember why, but what's iPiano?
iPiano was premiered in 2019 during our second Fringe run at the Pit. It's written by Adrian Hornsby and directed by Adrian Hornsby. He's a brilliant writer, an old friend of Tim's actually, and he put together this lovely family show, which is a two-hander. It's a pianist and movement artist and actor and puppeteer.
Oh, wow.
And the show is all about this young girl who's lost her piano and goes on a journey to find the piano. And she meets...
May I correct you?
Yeah, I was
the pianist has lost his music, and
That's right.
the puppeteer is a sort of a muse who helps him through this journey to find his music again.
Yeah. So that's really our big family offering,
Right.
and it's already selling quite well. It's really great. They've had loads of 5-star reviews, and then it got a bit stopped by the pandemic, but we were really encouraging them to come back because it's...
Actually, I can tell you that the pianist said, "Oh God, I can't do theatre anymore. He got a teaching job while he wasn't able to perform, and he's got kids to support and stuff." And then my friend Adrian just sent him the film of the previous one that we did at the Pit, and he was like, "Oh, I really can't. I'll just watch the film." And then he watched the film. He's like, "I'm doing it. We're doing it. We'll make it happen."
And I'm not going to ask you for favourite things in the programme coming up, but is there anything that you're particularly kind of looking forward to that's a little bit different that you'd like to tell us about?
I would say that Pianodrome Live, our evening show, which goes from 9 till 11, is going to be really special this year. We've run it every year that we've done the Fringe, and it's like Tuesday to Sundays. It's pretty much every night. Starts at 9, and each night will feature 2 different acts. And in the first 2 years, Sync were one of those 2 acts every night, but a 23-night run is something we just can't do this year. So instead...
we want to make space for other people, you know. We don't want to hog the theatre, The whole point is to get, as many different things in as possible, so... And
we're really excited about some of the bands who we've got for that are going to be amazing. Nushi Fortet is a band from Glasgow with a female trombonist, and they played at Hidden Door, and we spotted them and we were just like, yes, that's going to work, that's going to be magic. But it's a whole mix. So we've got like some Baroque music from Scots Baroque, who are also based in Glasgow and do beautiful classical Baroque music, but also improvise with the themes. So there's, from Baroque music to modern jazz, but then there's also lots of really beautiful folk. So some of our favourite musicians who've come back and back again in the last 5 years include Kate and the Kettle, who is Kate Young, and she's got an album that she's releasing soon, and it's devastatingly beautiful music. And that one was really heavily sold out last time. People were sort of like gagging for tickets. Lisbeth Rousseau is another of our favourites.
Big fan of Lisbeth.
Yeah.
She's brilliant, yeah.
And there's lots of different musicians, but the key thing about that is that every night it's been very carefully curated. There's always 2 acts in that evening, and we propose just book a ticket because you're going to have a great time. And our full programme is on our website, so you can have a look at everyone who's playing. But yeah, it's a really special thing, that Pianodrome Live evening show.
Wow. And I'll put links to everything on the post accompanying this podcast. So if you're listening to this, go to the website. You'll get all the links as well. Have you got anything that you're particularly looking forward to, Tim?
Well, I'm looking forward to, 1.5-year-olds playing football with their dads, I mean, who knows? What I'm actually most looking forward to is the stuff that we just don't know what's going to happen.
But there is one thing that Tim...
Well, I can't possibly pass up this opportunity to plug my own show. I'm writing a play. I have written a play, which is called Playing Beethoven. And I'm one of 3 Beethovens, and it's a cast of 5. We've also got Pavlina Gusheva, who is a young leading light classical pianist, and Chris Lyons and Faye Guifo, who are classical violin and piano, also improvisers, and Robin Mason, who's in a band called Various Moons. He's been on the scene for a long time. He's a wonderful cello player. And so we're going to do a sort of odyssey into basically the show opens with Beethoven on his deathbed, and he gets up, has a pee, and then starts composing the third movement of his 13th string quartet. And then as part of that, he goes into an odyssey into earlier scenes in his life, and it explores how, though he's such a wonderful composer, he struggles in every area, really, of his life, in terms of his politics, his friendships, his love, his family life, everything. He just can't quite make it work, which is the deepest tragedy of his life. But it's also the thing that makes him able to compose this music, these late quartets, which are, so deeply engaged with the human soul, what it means to be human. So I hope to get some of that across. But in terms of what I'm looking forward to is like actually putting on a piece of theatre. This is something I've been wanting to do ever since we put the Pianodrome in the Botanic Gardens. I thought we need to do theatre in this space, and we need to write theatre for this space. And this is the first opportunity that I've had to do that, and I'm very, very excited about it. It's going to be running from the 3rd till the 7th of August at 5 p.m. Just 5 performances.
And that's the first of a bunch of different theatre shows, which were, so in 2019 we had 2 theatre shows. This time we've got, I think, 7. So really digging into exploring different ways of articulating the possibilities for theatre in this space. So a good few of them have been written for the Pianodrome itself. Another one is called The Music Box by Nikki Hill, who actually helped build the Pianodrome in its first iteration, and she's been around helping with all sorts of Pianodrome stuff ever since. And she's an amazing clown. She's, hilarious, and she piloted this show during the Hidden Door Festival, and it was really, really fun. It's an excellent show.
She was trying to teach a mannequin, which she actually got from Debenhams, to do ballet dance while she's on roller skates, and then the arm falls off, and then it all starts to fall apart. It's just so beautiful.
Her
slapstick.
dog Pero is in the piece as well, so he's just sort of there gnawing on a piece of wood or something.
He's playing catch with the audience members. He's like pushing the props towards the audience and getting them to throw the props for him.
It's like proper fringe theatre.
It's beautiful.
Like exactly lovely. And another of the theatre offerings we've got is Lucy Hopkins, who is behind the Spiegeljurt, which is amazing. What do you call it? Cult fringe show, like Fringe of the Fringe usually. And when I first saw her show, Ceremony of the Golden Truth, I was bowled over. She comes on as this extraordinary kind of witch-like creature, human god thing, and takes the audience on this weird, enlightening kind of journey where you discover that magic actually exists. It's like a real thing, and she performs that in the round, and I've been sort of banging on her door for a long time to get that here, and we've managed to get her to perform here during Fringe. So that's a 5-day run, but it's going to be really good. She's really keen for it, and it's going to be perfect in this space.
And one of my personal favourite acts from the previous iterations of the Pianodrome has been the Tinderbox Orchestra, who are very well known around Edinburgh and beyond, and they're actually going to be doing their show in the Grand Hall, which is next door to the Pianodrome. So there's 250, 300 seats in
250 seats, yeah.
And there's sort of 20 musicians. It's a sort of full classical orchestra, but then with drums and bass and electric backline. And they do wonderful collaborations with people all over the world. They have musicians from China and Kenya, and they're also inviting 2 shows. One is a drumming troupe from, help me out,
So there's Pamoja, who are drum and dance from Kenya, and they're a very special sort of Kenyan, performers who are coming over. And the other one is the Kathputli Colony show. Kathputli Colony is this extraordinary sort of shanty town in Delhi, where lots of creative street artists live, and they make their living through street art in and around Delhi. And they are coming, a whole crowd of them are coming along to put on a puppet show with their drumming and puppets, and that's going to be really special. Again, that, you know, harking back somehow to like the old style Fringe, where you get all these like amazing travelling artists who just turn up at the Fringe, and it's like, what? You know, how do we get blessed with this? Yeah, so it's very exciting. And
we have obviously the programme for the Pianodrome as Matt says, been very carefully curated and is pretty much locked down, as it has to be for the Fringe. Though in July and September, as he said, also, you know, free lunchtime concerts. Actually, the free lunchtime concerts run throughout, but there's a lot of space to explore and enjoy the Pianodrome unticketed in July and September. But the Grand Hall during the Fringe, that there is a lot of space there still,
right,
for what comes along. And I mean, the mainstay, the leaders there, the people who are really kind of like gonna set the tone there are the Tinderbox Orchestra with their 2 invited performances from across the globe. But then beyond that, what happens, you know,
we have to see. There's already people booking the Grand Hall on available slots in the evenings, and in the daytimes there'll be, again, sort of free, it'll be our chance to offer free space for people to come and, you know, busk their shows, or like, there'll be thousands of new people in town who are creatively extraordinary, and we'll be inviting them in as well. So
yeah, there'll be lots of people wandering about looking for things to kind of see, different things as well. And there, literally, from what you're saying, will be something for everyone and more. I
mean, yeah, it's hard to say that without feeling like that's just something that everyone says, but in this case, it's absolutely true.
No, I think you've shown that from what you've said, and it's also really kind of inspiring if people are thinking, oh, I love these musicians, how can I get to see them? Or I'd love to do a bit of theatre and put it on. Build your own space and do it yourself, and you know, that's the one way of guaranteeing that you'll do it.
It's a very tiring and stressful way of doing it. I'm not
saying you just do it off the back, I'm sure it's had years and years.
But I mean,
look where you've ended up doing it.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the reasons why we're doing it. It's because we are performers and we love to share music and collaborate and share theatre and art and do it, and it, somehow so much with the booking process for booking a tour or this and that just takes the fun out of it.
And I think so much of why people wouldn't do stuff is that they just don't think they're allowed to, or they don't think that they can. And what we're doing really is saying, well, you are allowed to and you can do it, so go for it, you know?
And just as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, this feels like it's never been anywhere else.
I know.
It feels really kind of seated in this space.
We've got an interesting compare and contrast, because this room is exactly the same in proportion and shape, and, you know, the design of this room is exactly the same as the room on the other side of the Grand Hall. So you can see the acoustic in the other side is really boomy. You can't hear anything, but it turns out that sticking a Pianodrome in it improves the acoustic, at least.
Well, listen, thank you to both of you for talking to me today. I really do appreciate it.
That's been a great pleasure.
Thank you, Alistair.
And all the best for Summer Resonancy. I can't wait to see some of it at least.
Come along, please.
And we will be back soon with someone completely different. Cheers.